friends, you are all aware that we have already started a new series, that is Concepts in Labor Laws. In Concepts in Labor Laws, we have already seen what are the principles of natural justice. Those of you all who have not seen the earlier videos, I would request you to first see them. Today we are going to come with a new topic, that is, what is an industry? Now friends, the name of the act itself is Industrial Disputes Act 1947, but how do we come to the word industry, and what is this concept of industry is something which we are going to discuss today. Now what is an industry? Let me take you somewhere in 1947. 1947, as you understand, 15th of August 1947, India became independent. And when India became independent, there was no law which would govern the Indian industries, and that is why our legislature thought it wise to frame an act to enact a legislation which is called as, which they enacted of course, which is called as the Industrial Disputes Act 1947. The act itself, the name is Industrial Disputes Act 1947, so it has something to do with the word industry. And in 1947, you can understand, friends, that India became independent. Earlier day Pakistan became independent, that is on 14th of August. 15th of August, India is independent. And then in those days, as we are all aware, that Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru was the first Prime Minister of independent India. And the Industrial Disputes Act 1947 was passed, and thereafter we saw a mushrooming of industries all over. The industries had a ubiquitous and an omnipresence everywhere in industries. Industries, Indians, you know, they are entrepreneurs. And then we had all industries coming up here and there, and at the same time, we had the first 5-year plan. All these big industries, say Steel Authority of India, these big dams, Bhakra Nangal and Damodar Valley Corporation, and all of those we can see, they came up in those days, Bharat Heavy Electric. And once there is a big industry, you have a mushrooming of smaller industry or a cluster of smaller industries around it. And slowly everything got picked up, and then where is the law to govern all these industries? And that is why I told you we already had the Industrial Disputes Act 1947. Now what is this? Our topic today is what is an industry, and I am going to ask you a very simple question. That suppose if I were to ask you a question, think of a seashore, what comes before your eyes? Somebody might say waves, somebody might say trees, somebody might say the seashore or whatever. And then I say, think of the word called forest, what comes before your eyes? And then somebody is going to say a jungle and trees and fruits and then animals and everything. I remember I had asked this question once, and somebody said, what comes before my eyes is Tarzan. And of course, I will give him a full credit because his answer is not altogether wrong. But friends, come on, forget the joke part of it. Today I am going to ask you a question, what comes before your eyes when I utter the word industry? And people say a chimney or unions or people and workers and machines, and then they gather and production and so on and so forth, all of those things. And friends, I am going to correct all of you right now. What is coming before your eyes is a factory and not an industry. And today the topic which we are going to discuss, or I am going to explain you as to what is an industry. As I told you, Industrial Disputes Act is the backbone of the Indian industry. The Industrial Disputes Act 1947 because it is enacted in the year 1947. In the words of Honorable V.R. Krishna Iyer, Industrial Disputes Act is a benign measure to preempt industrial tensions. The focus, the object of the act is to settle industrial disputes. But the question is, what is an industrial dispute? We'll see later. But what is basically an industry itself is something which we have to see. Industry, friends, is defined in section 2J of the Industrial Disputes Act, and of course I am going to make it very simple and not going to take you through the technicalities. In order to understand as to what is the word industry, we have to see the definition threefold in three phases. So the first phase, friends, is from 1947 to 1978. The second phase is 1978 to 1982, and I will tell you why I have divided this into phases. 1947, we had a very simple definition, and it is cast too wide. Industry includes trade, manufacture, calling, avocation, vocation, everything is included. Depending on this definition, there were cases which came up between the period when 1947 to 1978. Whether hospital is an industry, whether a club is an industry, whether school is an industry, whether a college is an industry, so many questions. 1978, we had a very landmark judgment which was passed by the Honorable Supreme Court. And the name of the judgment is Bangalore Water Works and Sewerage Board versus Rajappa. Unless and until you read this judgment, you do not get a fair idea as to what is an industry. And this judgment laid down as to what could be an industry, and taking lessons or tenets from this judgment, the legislature amended the definition of the word industry in the year 1982. And the amended definition reads this way, that in every industry, there is a systematic activity carried on by the cooperation of employer and employees for the production, distribution and supply of goods and services so as to satisfy human wants and wishes. And whether you invest capital in it or whether you make some profit out of it is irrelevant for the consideration of the word industry. Now I am going to make it very simple for you. See, first and foremost, there must be a cooperation of employer and employees. Yes, there is an employer, there is an employee. But who can be an employer? Employer could be anyway, it could be the government also. There are so many governmental projects which are going on. Government is an employer, people work in government, so government is an employer. Second type of an employer could be a private employer. All these private industries which we have, they are private employees, private employers. Third type of an employer could be, say, a trust. There are so many hospitals, and then a big hospital which has employed, but they are basically appointed by the trust. Or it could be a society also. So this is the color of the employer. On the other hand, there are employees, and there is a cooperation between them for the existence of the word industry. So there is a cooperation between employer and employees for what? For the production. There should be some production, there should be some distribution, there should be some supply of what? Of goods and services so as to satisfy the definition, the word industry. And whether any capital is invested or whether you make profit out of it is not relevant for the word industry, and I am going to explain you all of these things. Simple. I am going to make it simple, then only you are going to understand. So let's take an example. Say a friend of yours meets with an accident. God forbid it should not happen, but he meets with an accident. What do? You pick up your friend, go to a hospital. When you go to a hospital, the hospital wala will just look at you with a cold face and say, come on, pay 10,000 rupees. Then you understand, yes, money has to be paid. Then only they are going to treat your friend. So you go and pay the money. There is a person called as a cashier to take the money. Who is a cashier? Cashier is an employee of the hospital. Hospital can be run again by government, it can be run by a private company, it can be run by a trust, it can be run by a society. But that, as I told you, is the color of the employer. And your friend, the moment you pay the money, two ward boys come, keep your friend on the stretcher. Who are the ward boys? Ward boys are the employees of the hospital. And then they take him to another department, that is a radiology lab, just to see where is the fracture, this, that. Who is the radiologist? Radiologist again is an employee of the hospital. And then they shift him into a general or a special ward, and then he is attended by a nurse. Who is a nurse? Nurse is again an employee of the hospital. You see, there is a cooperation between employer and employees for the production, distribution and supply. What is production in a hospital? There is no production. What is distribution? No distribution. What is supply? No supply of goods and services. And hospital indeed is service today. We go in a hospital and then we say, yes, the service is very good. A friend of mine went into some, I don't know which hospital, and then he had a very horrendous experience. He had a toothache and then they just asked him to open his mouth. And by actions he said that the tooth is in the lower jaw. The two doctors who were interns, they were busy talking with each other, and then he took up a clipper and started pulling his tooth. My friend started howling, "Doctor, what are you doing?" By actions he said that you are pulling the tooth in the upper jaw, whereas the toothache is in the lower jaw. This is the status of some of the hospitals in India. They have created Himalayan blunders. And then you say, yes, I swear I will never enter this hospital because the service is bad. And then I will go into a good hospital where everybody smiles at me, and then the people are good, and we have so many movies also, Munna by MBBS, and then you see what is the service which they give. Ultimately that movie reflected on service itself. So friends, your friend is already admitted. And I have heard stories, let me tell you, I don't know whether they are true or false, but the stories are that, say for example, people in India, there were some hospitals, they sent their marketing agents to Gulf countries so as to solicit clients and patients from there. And then if you compare statistics, a bypass, say in United States of America, for example, I am not very sure about the price, but then they say it's suppose it's 25 lakhs. In India, we will do it at 50%, 12 lakhs. And then the people from there, they come to Bombay, and then they are given a royal treatment. With a helicopter, they are brought to the hospital, attended by one nurse and a doctor and a ward boy. And then they check him up. And then they said, yes, that you are going to undergo a bypass surgery. And then the operation is over. And then for the convalescence, that is the post-operative care, he is sent to Khandala Ghats and serene environment and the drizzling rain, and the patient is also very happy, and all this in only 12 lakhs. So the patient is happy, and after that they again check him, and then they congratulate him that yes, your operation is successful. A friend of mine told me, of course, I will again repeat, this is not the position with all the hospitals. Some of them, it appeared in newspapers. I should not be accused of blaming some hospital XYZ. No. But then some of my friends told me that when he comes back from Khandala Ghat, they again recheck him and congratulate him, your operation is successful. And my friend also told me, why is it successful? What is the success rate of a bypass operation? It is 99.9%, because all of these people, barring 0.1%, they required a bypass. Otherwise, other people never required a bypass itself. This is what I am told and I learn. This is my news. I may be right, I may be wrong. But ultimately, what do we deduct from this? The common thread is this is business.